Good morning. Hope everyone had some coffee this morning. You have a long day ahead of you. It's an honor to be here, and I thank KDB as well as KITA and sponsoring organizations for hosting this wonderful conference today and tomorrow. And it is really a privilege to be invited to speak to you today about post-COVID consumer trends in health and wellness. Oh, I got it. So, when I start preparing for presentation materials, of course, you start out with an outline. But then I like to add lots of images. As you'll see in my presentation, I have lots of images. So when I started to look for an image that encapsulated this future consumers in health and wellness, this was the image I found. How do you interpret this image? It could be, I don't know, a diet. Maybe a supplement, vitamins, or maybe a meal replacement. I know a long time ago, my grandmother used to always complain because, she would prepare like 3 meals a day, right? And that's a big chore for her. So she would always say, it would be great one day if we could just take one pill and be done with the meal, right? For me, I love food. I'm a foodie, right? I love enjoying good food experience, especially in Korea. And so I would be totally against something like this. So when I found this image, where we're probably much more familiar with this type of image where we're taking photos of food, I'm sure all of us in this room have done that. But here, it's not just taking the photo of the food you're eating, but it really is calculating how many calories in each ingredient. It's something already happening in the industry where it's tracking and giving you information about the food intake, which is actually critical for people with chronic illness, such as diabetes, right? And so a technology enabling us this type of information gives us, the consumers, power to be more informed and make more informed decisions for our health. Hello, my name is Claire Chang, founding partner at igniteXL Ventures. We are a Silicon Valley-based global fund focusing on tech-enabled products and services in health and wellness, led by female and diverse founding teams. I say female and diverse founding teams because if you look at the healthcare and personal care product purchases, 80% of the purchases are done by female. And so we believe that this is a space where females have intimate understanding of the problems and solutions. So we tend to see a lot more female founders coming into this space. Not to say that we're exclusively female, but we do also prefer diverse founding teams because the research has shown that diverse founding teams are 30% likely to succeed than their peers. And so today, I'm really excited to speak to you about health and wellness, which is really the core investment thesis of our fund, and the consumer trends that's emerging beyond post-COVID era. And the top 5 consumer trends that I'll be talking about is telehealth, personalization, mental wellness, alternative care, and conscious consumers. What is causing these seemingly new or different consumer trends to emerge? Obviously, with COVID, pretty much everything that we know today has changed, right? But I would argue that there were already underlying currents happening even prior to COVID. such as digital transformation. We know the advancement of technology was really disrupting every industry, right? In particular, I would say in mobility, in the auto industry, vehicles, cars are no longer just cars, right? There's a ton of software, the sensors that go into automobiles. My friend Jack, who drives Tesla, swears by that, hey, Tesla's autopilot is much more reliable than human driving. So he's constantly on autopilot, right? And I think we're going to see more and more of this the advancement of technology transforming industries from manufacturing to foods to agriculture and really healthcare, of course. And then the second piece is the rise of conscious consumers. And when we say rise of conscious consumers, is really we're talking about Gen Z. Gen Z defined as the population born between 1995 and 2010. I know in Korea, you guys refer to it as MZ 세대, right? But we're really talking about Gen Z, who are really even more different than the millennials that we've seen. They are much more conscious of their purchase decisions. They are the first digitally native population. They were born with basically a phone in their hand. They've had access to internet 24/7. How they discover products, how they purchase, what they purchase are very different from the existing or the previous generations. And so this poses a huge challenge for corporations when they're thinking of marketing to Gen Z, the up-and-coming consumer base. And then maybe what is not mentioned here that I'll talk about later also is the fact that we are living much longer than we have ever been before. We are now, I believe, the latest stats is that if you're born in 2007, you'll be living up to 107. So we're talking about beyond 100 years of age of living. That means we're going to have to be really maintain our health, right? Because we don't want to be just living in a bedridden, but we want to be active. We want to be living an active lifestyle. And also, there's going to be a huge increase of aging population in the next 25 years. So with all of that combined with COVID, really created what I would call this perfect storm that really, out of that phenomenon that the emerging trends have really, the consumer trends have emerged. So the first one that I'll talk about is a telehealth. Probably more so in the US. This was something that we really had no choice because without telehealth model, we really couldn't access healthcare during COVID. So those of us who have experienced telehealth during COVID have understood that, hey, this is a really convenient service, right? You don't have to drive to doctor's office. You don't have to wait in line. You can do this at the comfort of your home. You have the privacy. And so the convenience and even the safety factor, right, during COVID, really has got the consumers to say, hey, this is something that I can get used to. So 74% of the consumers who have experienced telehealth says they're going to continue. They actually feel very comfortable communicating with their doctors online. 67% of the users who use telemedicine services, basically getting their prescriptive medication online through doctors, said, hey, that increased their satisfaction. Imagine, you had to go to doctor's office, again, drive, wait in the office, just to get the prescription refilled, right? That's a hassle. Again, in Korea, it's much easier to access doctor's office, whereas in the US, it's a big hassle because you have to make an appointment. With specialist doctors, you have to wait anywhere from 2 to 6 months. So it's just a really unfavorable environment for patients. And so, again, it increased the satisfaction of the patients. And then, of course, not just on the patient side, but even for the providers, the hospitals. It improved their workflow and efficiency because imagine the doctors are not having to go from one room to another to meet the patients. They can basically be stationed and basically interact with patients on one-on-one, one after another. That also decreases their overhead cost. And so it brings down the Medicare, medical cost per visit, which again in the U.S. it's ridiculously high. So all of these presents a real great opportunity for telehealth. Yet, also we have to think about huge challenge that it poses. The accessibility, especially for older adults beyond the age of 60. 1 out of 3 older adults have never communicated with another person using video. This is US stats. I know Korea is different. And also in terms of low-income population, many of them live outside of this or do not have access to broadband connectivity, which again, the video visits require high broadband capability. And so that again, 25% of the Medi-Cal recipients do not have access to broadband access. So that poses a huge challenge for the healthcare providers. Data privacy and security continues to be a concern, obviously because we're talking about sensitive health data. As we have more devices come into marketplace to enable the remote care, the integration is going to be needed. So there's a lot more technology that supports this integration will be needed. And then sort of the seamless experience between the physical and online experience so that the customers or the patients do not feel like they have to explain their condition offline versus online multiple times, where it needs to be seamless. And then, of course, the opportunity also is with these companies that are really coming into marketplace as so-called niche services. But if you look at the market opportunity, it's huge. So for one that I've listed there, Muesli is targeting anti-aging market with dermatologists online. Typically, dermatologists are considered specialists. So in the US, it would take anywhere from 2 to 6 months, I'm not kidding you, to see a dermatologist. I've had an incident where I'm thinking, okay, I'm just gonna fly to Korea, and I'm just gonna go see a dermatologist like next week, rather than having to wait literally 4 months to see a dermatologist. And so Muesli is really solving that problem, having the dermatologist available online. Allerme is another startup that's addressing allergy problem. US populations, I forget the stats, but majority of them suffer from allergy, right? And it's pretty severe. But to see an allergist, again, takes anywhere from 2 to 4 months. And if you've suffered from allergy, you need a solution like now, today. And to be able, to have to wait for a specialist, it's just such a pain, especially in the 21st century, right? And so Allerme provides allergists online, they can access, and they'll be able to provide the solution right away. So these are kind of the startups that are really coming into marketplace with innovative solutions to address these problems. Personalization. I was recently at the Shop Talk, which is the largest retail conference in the US. So this conference happened in Las Vegas. And one of the executives from Google was asked, what is the biggest technology that he is excited about? And he said personalization, personalized experience. Personalized experience delivered to you, personalized experience uniquely relevant to you is basically where he's super excited about. We all know Google is listening all the time. Alexa from Amazon is listening all the time. Siri from iPhone is listening all the time. I don't know about you, but I've had many incidences where I'll be having a discussion with my family or my friends in the car or in the kitchen at home about a certain topic, and then next thing I know, I get this targeted ads, maybe about the golf shoes, or some products that we were randomly mentioning. So they are listening. The idea is that already so much of the data is being collected. What we eat, what we buy, where we go, how we sleep, all of this data points are being collected. So with that, what the expectations from the consumers, are, hey, we're expecting, 71% says they expect personalized interactions and services, right? Don't give me, let's say if I'm a single person, don't give me an ad with a diaper advertisement, right? Give me an ad that actually is relevant to me. And we're not just talking about, let's say, advertisement. Imagine a world where you can walk into a juice bar and you're just basically putting all you have to do is just basically put your hand down, it measures your biometric, identifies you, and know what state you are in. And you don't even have to say what kind of juice you want. It basically concocts a juice that has maybe extra vitamin C because maybe you're fatigued. And it just knows your body condition and be able to concoct a juice that's very much personalized for you. That is the kind of personalization that we can expect in the near future. So, 76% again, frustrated when this doesn't happen. 78% impacts their buying behavior, especially in the repeat engagement and loyalty over time. And again, this is a good business practice because as you get to know your customer better, as you are able to offer solutions, products, and services that's more catered to that individual is likely to stay with you for the longer period of time. That customer is likely to become more loyal customer to you, increasing your LTV over time. And so, again, the studies have shown that it increases your revenue by 10 to 15%, and companies with personalization perform 40% better than their peers. So it is definitely a good business decision and something that I think everyone should be thinking about as to how do you address this. And obviously, digitally native brands such as Noom, Aura, all of these D2C brands are already doing this really well because they are able to collect the first party data, right? And they get to really understand and learn about their customers, and over time, they can even offer even better experience for their customers. I'm gonna skip for the interest of time, just description of each of the companies I mentioned. And again, this approach cannot be just coming from a marketing standpoint, but really at the organizational standpoint and really integrated into the overall structure of the company and how you operate. Mental wellness is the third piece of this consumer trend where US alone, this is prior to COVID numbers, 1 in 4 Americans have mental or substance use disorder. America is 350 million population. So quarter of that is suffering from some sort of mental or substance disorder. That's huge. And the fact that the second point is even more scarier because less than 50% of the adults and children living with mental illness have gone without treatment. And the reason is because, you would be shocked, obviously because of the stigma, right? And that exists, I think, universally. The cost, therapists typically range from $150 to $200 per hour. And then the access is probably the biggest issue, surprisingly, because look at the numbers. 56 counties, 50% of the counties in the US do not have psychiatrists. 70% have no child and adolescent psychiatrists. That is crazy, and it's really COVID where it was able to spotlight these issues. And so now the government is really trying to address this issue by pouring a ton of resources and dollars into the mental wellness space. So in the US now is very much actively investing in mental wellness space. In 2020, there were $1.5 billion of VC dollars went into the startups that are tackling mental illness issues. In 2021, year after, that number five-folded to $5.5 billion. And it's continuing to increase. Just for us, even we're looking at mental wellness in the pre-seed stage. Just within the last month and a half, we've seen over 10 startups that are in the very early stage coming to us. Literally every month, there are mental wellness startups being created. And they're targeting very specific groups, not more we've seen a ton of general practice model. Now we're looking at much more specialist model happening in the US. And again, the access continues to be the problem, the cost being an issue. And then Gen Zs, by the way, really take mental wellness seriously. And they not only want to address these head on, but they also require, hey, I want to see, if I am, let's say, Asian American, I want to be able to see an Asian American therapist who would understand my cultural background, my understanding of my upbringing versus going to, let's say, a Caucasian therapist. I'm going to try to move really quick. Another one that's really a huge issue that we all need to pay attention to is the fact that life expectancy has been increasing at an accelerated pace. So every decade, we're living 3 years longer. And so currently, we're looking at living up to 103. And the second point is really shocking. It's population over 65 will increase from 600 million today worldwide to 2.1 billion in 2050. That's like 28 years from now, right? And we do not have the government nor healthcare system, our infrastructures are definitely not ready for this. So how are we going to prepare ourselves for this? And the retirement saving gap to support this will reach 400 trillion. That was just on 8 countries. Korea was not even included in that stats. So there's a huge gap in where we will be 28 years from now and where we are today and to prepare for that. Again, so as a result, we're seeing, much more of these individuals trying to be proactive in taking care of themselves. We can't rely on healthcare system. And so again, maintaining health is a must, it's not a choice. Proactive versus reactive. We need to sort of be ahead of, hey, are we doing things to make sure that we're sleeping well, maintaining our health? Unfortunately, there are too many unproven products in the market. I think US alone, they have over 85,000 supplements. Again, totally unregulated, right? And so from a consumer standpoint, how do we choose? How do we know what's effective? And so I think there's a huge opportunity to have products that are science-backed, clinically proven products that can address the wellness market. Lastly, the consumers, the Gen Z consumers that I had mentioned, they not only are eco-conscious, but they speak with their wallets, meaning that they demand from corporations what they want, what they believe in. They are very much environmentally conscious. They would buy, 94% would buy from companies with, this timer is really like getting to me. So I'm gonna let you read that. Again, so for companies, the opportunity and the challenges is that you cannot just be thinking about your bottom line, but you really have to think it from triple bottom line where you have to be conscious of the environmental impact as well as the community, the social impact. And at the same time, of course, you have to make money and you have to be profitable. So again, wellness is expected to be a $7 trillion market opportunity by 2025. That's only 3 years from now. And wellness, again, is not a choice, but a must. Consumers are more than ever health conscious. We have to be proactive. Technology is posing a ton of opportunities in where we can improve this. And again, we must be proactive in taking care of ourselves, and wellness is not a choice, but a must. Thank you.